Thanks for staying tuned. It's still Tuesday morning conversation on Rise and Shine, and we're beaming live from the youth capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. We're being joined by Jude Ose, and he is the founder of the Center for Inclusive Growth Africa, a really strong voice where the youth of Nigeria is concerned, and that's where we're hosting him this morning to talk about that youth confab that the president talked about sometime in 2024 and had further in the month of December alluded to the fact that February 2025 will be the time when that particular youth confab will be hosted. Now we're going to look into details as expected. At this time, groundwork should have already started. We'll see what Jude has to share with us on this. Good morning, Jude. Good to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you so much. Good to be on your show.
Yes, how is the city of Abuja?
That's fine.
Abuja is fine, okay. That's like where it's happening. So I'm here with Francis this morning, and we'll just delve into some of the issues. Youth Confab is coming. I think I prefer to put it Youth Confab cometh. So far, so good. Where are you people on the preparation? Have you had any talks, any conversation? Where are we drawing the youth out from? Has the presidency delivered any blueprint for the confab just yet?
Well, no, not yet. Short answer is that. Please, can you confirm if you can hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. Short answer is that there's still so much the presidency is working on, and of course, working with the Ministry of Youth Development, trying to ensure that the modalities that are going to use to select young people across the country are perfected. So far, no tentative date yet. It's pretty much very still in its planning phase. So no blueprint has been rolled out yet to the public, but just speculations here and there. But we're looking forward towards this first quarter, and hopefully that the conference is going to hold. Yes.
Is there a slight possibility that it may not be holding February 2025 as the president had alluded to?
It's possible that it's going to be held, as it were, but by now we're meant to have a date. We're meant to have like a call out as to how this is going to be done. If we're going to have like regional delegates and then have them prep towards either regional engagement or just national delegates and have them plan towards national engagement. So we're still not sure what the plans are, as it were.
Okay.
But let's look at in as much as we're not sure of what the plan is, the youth confab has been much talked about by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and all he hopes to achieve as a youth and one who has advocated for so many things when it comes to development. What are your expectations about the youth confab?
Sorry, I didn't get that. Can you say that again?
I'm asking the youth confab plan by the federal government, with all of the preparations currently ongoing, we are in the 14 in 2025 already. What are your expectations, in as much as the presidency has not spoken to where and how we're going to draw those youths?
Yeah, my expectations, as it were, is to bring the youth issues to the fore, wherein that the Nigerian youth we used to know would seem to have like something to hold on to for the future. There are a couple of thematic areas that the National Youth Confab is going to be focusing on, and these include issues around job creation. These include issues around education. This include issues around innovation. This include issues around technology. This include issues around security. So I am pretty much very optimistic and looking forward that these conversations are touching the youth to ensure that youth inclusion in governance and economic growth are addressed. So basically, yes, I'm looking forward to that.
Talked about a possible participant enlisting formula. You talked about, at the national and sub-national levels. What, enlisting participant formula do you think the federal government should take in the eventuality that they decide it's going to hold in February, which means it will not be on short notice because everything would have to be rushed, as opposed to having all of the time from the last time the president talked about it to plan ahead of it. And so, what would be your best bet? How should the participation for this youth confab be? From where should we expect to draw the youths from? Because you've covered a key area, the kinds of conversations we are expecting, the thematic areas to cover. So for these thematic areas, where do we draw these youth from? What industries? Who? From these industries.
Exactly. Thank you very much for that question, because it's important to bring in as much diverse youth across the country as possible. Well, again, there is no blueprint yet as to how the government is going to do it. However, I have like two recommendations based on which I feel the government may want to choose from, right? One, you have the regional. So, for example, because there is no time in curating everyone at national level, the federal government could utilize the sub-regionals, for example, at state level, and charge the governors to to host a regional youth conference fab, wherein, for example, in Lagos or say Kano or say Kaduna or say Ogun State, you have the youth leverage this, you have the governors leverage the youth structures they already have, using the Ministry of Youth, and of course the Commissioner for Youth, to bring out young people within the states to trash issues that is peculiar to their states. Therein, you have an emergence of a delegate from that state who now represents the state at national level. Alternatively, which is the second option, is going to be for them to be political about it, which means every senator and their constituency get to nominate a delegate that represents that constituency. So we're talking having to see different young people across Nigeria, was say maybe say 400 or 600 young people coming together to be part of the national conference. The disadvantage with that, which sometimes that is what the government is going to do, is because of resources, that is going to go up a lot more resources than if they are to do a sub-regional pre-conference leading towards the national conference in and of itself. Because with a pre-conference, conversations are filtered directly to youths peculiar to them at that state, wherein you now have one representative per state to aggregate over, say, 36 plus Abuja delegates at the national conference. This is just one of those curating all the states. Then you now have other organizations like civil society organizations, all the ministries, agencies, and departments that are working within the youth thematic area can now come together to curate the conversations that leads to a working policy document that, when implemented, will increase youth participation and economic growth.
Okay, so another concern I would have, because by now, judging from the time frame after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu made that comment about the youth confab, Nigerians expected we should have had budgetary allocations and provisions made for it in the 2025 budget. But information has shown that despite the amount budgeted for the Ministry of Youth Development, we have not seen any item labeled Youth Confab under the budgetary provision for 2025. Does that worry you?
Not really. No. So look at it this way. When it comes to budgeting, I mean, it has to be a lot, right? The National Youth Confab is not an annual event, as it were. So you won't find it in the budget. However, if you look at the Nigerian revenue generation streams, okay, for example, you've seen that we now have a lot more money in the excess crude account, from the excess crude account with FAC. So all they need to do and legislated upon, this can take maybe say 3 days or two sittings as it were. Or the president can just, I mean, he has executive orders that can just um, ensure that the reps approve such funds immediately. So I don't think it's an issue that it's not in the budget yet. Again, no blueprint. When you don't have a blueprint, you don't have a budget for it. So, but I believe that on budgeting is what can be dealt with within 1 week. There we go.
Having the youths, and I really like the way you played it out. One question I will ask from what you said is it possible that state governments might have considered to take up the state or regional sect, part of this confab? Should we have had these conversations at state levels, considering, okay, the federal government is talking about having a youth confab? How do we cash in on this? Do we prepare our youth by hosting first a youth confab in our various states, or in our various, say maybe south, south, southeast, southwest, and the likes, northeast? Everybody comes together, host a regional confab, and then take on key people from this, confabs, as it were, and send on. Hopefully, that should have been something that our state governors would have considered. But that only covers for regional conversations, which may cover for where the youth find themselves in the political calculation of things. Let's go to industries. We're seeing how the youths are evolving, especially where tech is concerned. How would we able to picket the key voices across industries to represent the overall interest of the youth at the confab? Because remember, let's cast our mind back to the beginning of where this youth confab idea came from. The president is looking to, pick the minds of youth as to what solutions we can engender to the multiple problems that we're having as a nation. So we'll need people across regions, across industries. How would you say we will be able to cover the industries and pick minds to cover the conversations for the confab?
So it's important to note that, across sectors, we have bodies. For example, there's what we call the organized private sector. Now, the organized private sector are groups of different corporations leading the Nigerian private sector space. So when you are having a conversation on youth and for a national youth conference, you're going to find different stakeholders within this space who are going to come play their part. You're going to find different organizations within the civil society who are going to come to play their part. You're going to find different people drawing different interests, even from people living with disability. When we talk about inclusion, we're talking about people from stakeholders from finance, we're talking stakeholders from healthcare, we're talking stakeholders from, different sectors. So you're going to find all of these people on the table. And of course, the regulatory agencies that these organizations also report to. You're going to find Central Bank of Nigeria there. You're going to find, multiple diverse stakeholders who are going to be working with the presidency and with the working document that will be curated during the confab. That's something that they're going to be able to work with to deploy those strategies to ensure that young people's economic development is part of the Nigerian developmental plan. So it's going to be a robust engagement and to ensure that the future of Nigerian youths are secure. Yes, Toy.
One key thing that will then affect whatever we do at the youth confab when we eventually get to have it is the fact that we need a national reorientation as a people. We have strong mindsets that are fighting against us in terms of leadership, in terms of influence. Where would you talk about two things? Human capital development in terms of mindset shift, because I think youths in this country are still at the mercy of we are just here to hustle and feed ourselves. Whatever the older generation like they should do with the leadership of the country, where will you place, the conversation of mindset and influence where the youth is concerned in context with the youth confab? Because I think as part of the key conversations at the confab should be, hey guys, we need to think differently about Nigeria and in Nigeria.
It's very important that I stress this. When we say that the youths are just, living by, as though the federal government is not doing anything about it. I don't know if we've heard about what they call 3MTT. So 3MTT is 3 million technical talents. This is a scheme by the federal government and, of course, the Ministry of Tech and Innovation, led by Bosun Tijani. The goal is to empower 3 million technical talents. These talents are not the federal government or senators' children. These talents are the everyday Nigerian youth who are ready to take on projects or jobs or skill in technology. We're talking cybersecurity, product development, DevOps, software engineering, front end, back end engineers, and multiple other skill sets that they are going to be acquiring. This skill has been on since this administration, and young people, the informations are there. It's important that we stress that young people leverage these skills. You also have the Free AI Academy by the federal government. These academies were created for the Nigerian youth, and to just make it for them, because the future of work is AI driven, wherein man and machines are going to be interacting. Human capital is at the center of it. What role should Nigeria play within global trade? This is why these talents are being developed as we speak. If you look at the Future of Work report by the World Economic Forum, it was just launched like 1st of January 2025 this year. It highlighted the most relevant skills in the next 30 years. And we can find AI-driven skills there. You can find tech skills there. And the Nigerian government has ensured that they created academies and trainings to empower the youth of Nigeria. And guess what? They've also gone ahead to establish what we call the Technology Export and Digital Trade Desk. What does this mean? It means that when Nigeria is talking trade beyond commodities, beyond natural resources, tech skills will be on the table. Human capital will be on the table. Look at India. India is currently leading all the Fortune 500 tech companies in the world. All the CEOs are from India. That is what the federal government is trying to do. But to start, you need to develop those skills first. 3MTT was launched. It's free of charge. All Nigerian youth should please go check it out. 3MTT is free of charge. The Nigerian AI Academy too is free of charge. It's important that people and young people should not just sit down lackadaisically and feel that they are just living by in Nigeria. Skill development is important, and federal government has made sure that these avenues are there for them to leverage. Thank you very much.
Capacity building for Nigeria. A lot of Nigerians are interested in, gaining one or two skills within the tech space, AI, computer engineering, coding, and all of that. But looking at the present day situation, I'd like to pick your mind. The Nigerian government so far, from all that you've listed that we also know, have been making plans, making efforts to ensure that Nigerian youths get additional skills to be able to, take care of themselves and their responsibilities. But being proficient or, capacity building goes past just helping people to learn the skills. What happens to providing the enabling environment for the individuals, for these Nigerian youth, to be able to turn those skills into money-making venture? Which, of course, for these to happen, you're looking at the business environment. You're looking at accessibility to funds for even to even be able to start up a business. You're looking at the cost of running a business, looking at electricity in Nigeria, which of course we all know the situation. Do you think the Nigerian government also, or don't you think the Nigerian government also needs to look into these other areas so that Nigerian youth don't just finish training and then return to status quo, and then we're going back to 10, 15 years ago when computer began to make phase in Nigeria, where people go to learn how to operate computer and then they go back to their houses after the 1 year, 2 year courses without having access to computer. Fast forward 1 year, 2 years down the line, they have no idea of what is happening because there have been so much advancement in the sector. Don't you think the Nigerian government needs to do a lot more than just offering the platform for Nigerian youth to learn skills?
Amazing question. Amazing question. And I always love to address when it comes to enabling environment. And it's important that we don't speak to it abstractly. And I would like to mention a couple of federal government interventions that is enabling ease of doing business, and of course within the Nigerian space. I don't know if we know about the what is it called now? If we know about the naira the naira yuan currency swap. Now, the naira yuan currency swap is to enable, again, enabling environment, enable Nigerian businesses to reduce the pressure on the US dollar to do global trade. Within the global trade, we have found that the trade between Nigeria and China is quite very much higher than other parts of the world. So the Naira Yuan currency swap enables Nigerians, for example, be able to reach out to China and pay for goods and services in Naira. That way, you reduce the cost of purchasing as opposed to using dollar pegging to acquire that product. So what am I trying to say? I'm using, for example, when you use the word computer, a laptop, or you train somebody, but the person cannot buy a laptop. Now, with Naira Yuan currency swap, it is easy, it's cheaper to access such an infrastructure or such a hardware to work with. Now, when I go further to share more around the enabling environment, you can see that the federal government has also created what they call the National Credit Guarantee Agency. Now, what does National Credit Guarantee Agency mean? This will enable businesses, those who have ideas, those whom the federal government have trained, those who have experience or gained some form of skill from the federal government, should be able to access finance, pre-finance their projects so that they can employ more people and contribute to the development of Nigeria. So what does the National Credit Guarantee Scheme does? It just tells you that the financial institution prior to this time consider young people as high-risk lenders. Now, without a credit guarantee scheme, young people cannot have access to credit. Now, with the credit guarantee scheme in place, young people like myself, like yourself, anybody who's doing businesses can approach a commercial bank and apply for a loan using the framework of the credit guarantee scheme, and they will be granted. Because should they not be able to pay back that credit, the federal government or the National Credit Guarantee Agency will take responsibility of that credit. These are legal frameworks that empowers the Nigerian people, that empowers the Nigerian businesses. The president will not do that work by himself. Nigerians will have to go and deploy such a tool, an instrument for their own benefit in contributing to national growth. So I just thought to highlight all of this with you.
Conversations, and I must say it's pitiable that most times these initiatives are on by the federal government, because it's easy for us to say what is the federal government doing for the Nigerian youth, but sometimes this information is not, it's I may not really want to say readily available. Nigerians are not aware that these things are available to them, and therefore we are under harnessing these opportunities that have been highlighted. I mean, look at the 3MTT, 3 million youths in tech. 3 million is a lot of number for enthusiasts in that particular industry. But thank you so much, Jude, for giving light to some of those issues. Hopefully, we can put together websites and make them available. We will put together these websites and make them available on our social media handles, and the youth watching us across the nation can take advantage of these platforms of the federal government. So one more thing before we wrap up this conversation with you, as what's the word, as projections for 2025 where the youth of the country is concerned. Now we are looking at policy direction, we are looking at a budget 2025 under the Tinubu-led administration, and the climate of things where the international community is concerned. Now I've read reports in January that have suggested that even the percentage, the numbers for the Japa syndrome in Nigeria, we can now officially use the word, is dropping in some nations. For instance, in the UK, the indices have dropped because of the new restrictions that the UK government put in place, and several other nations of the world. What are some of your projections where the Nigerian youth is concerned in 2025? Are we expecting more Japa, or we're going to see more youth sit in the country and use their minds and hands?
It's quite a very interesting one. So I usually approach the Japa syndrome as brain drain, okay?
Okay.
It's important that our Nigerian youth know that that which they are looking for were built and developed by citizens, okay? So the more you leave your country into another country, you just send your country 20 years back in time, because the void you will create, we will need to develop a new replacement from high school into university. Is going to take us another 10 years. So the more young people leave the country, the more detrimental it is for Nigeria as a country. I saw the statistics on the number of immigrants from Nigeria dropping, especially within the UK.
Yes.
And this is not because Nigerians are not interested. This is because within the UK government, there are a lot of immigration policies that is stifling, some of these processes. And then there are new costs. There's a new ETA that has been introduced. Like within the Western region, I'm talking America and co, there's a new travel authorization they need to have. So these are led by immigration policies that is making the numbers drop. So, but I believe that if young people in Nigeria are able to just come together and leverage all the federal government schemes, they can acquire the skills they need, attract the companies out there that will pay them in foreign currency, and they are able to put their lives back together. So I believe that there's so much more we as Nigerians can achieve from Nigeria. And Japa syndrome, I have never supported it, and I think it's a brain drain, and it's a strategy, by the way, by the West to ensure that they reduce the Nigerian human capital and its efforts to global trade. Yeah, thank you very much.
To come at you from a different standpoint this morning. Yes, we're all patriotic Nigerians, Nigerian youths, a lot of us. I'm opportunity to interact with a lot of Nigerians who are abroad, and a lot of them would want to come back home. A lot of them didn't take the decision to jackpot out of the country because they wanted to. A lot of them wanted to stay back in Nigeria and be able to contribute their quota to making their own nation a better place where other people can also come in to live, to school, to do business, for medical tourism and all of that. But unfortunately, the environment has not given them that privilege that they should have by virtue of being Nigerians. The enabling environment has not been there. Their welfare have not been, looked into. Let's put it side by side to create for better perspective, or just to paint a picture. The average Nigerian medical doctor goes to school, finishes school, graduates, and the working condition is as horrible as you can never find it anywhere else. But you compare that of the professional and a quack who has not even probably gone to school but has found his way into the corridors of politics and into the corridors of governance with as little as an O-level certificate, but is living a life of wealth and affluence, spoiling himself, his family, and everybody who is loyal to him. Don't you think this is one of the reasons that Nigerians are, this is one of the reasons why Nigerian youths particularly are leaving the country? And then, as part of the, intervention to put an end to this, the government needs to sit back and look at the template of oppression as far as governance is concerned and what politicians take home.
So I am always very particular about how, when we're drawing comparisons from different places and trying to put it in context in Nigeria, I believe that for anyone, who is probably either coming back to set up in Nigeria, those who have left the country and they want to come back to set up in Nigeria. See, there is no perfect country, okay? There's no perfect country. It's important that those whom have identified lapses in its development must come together to form a quorum and address those problems. Every day, every time new problems comes up, but you lead its solution. While we can talk about some of those things, it's important to note that with a collective effort across board and spectrum, it's important that we all work together to address some of those problems. Government may be averse to some of these and may not even know, but with these stakeholders coming together to address these problems, we can solve some of these root causes that is enabling or allowing people to leave the country, or even not allowing them coming back to invest or build within Nigeria. So I feel that the conversation needs to be continuum, as it were, but it will take a collective to come together to fix that.
Had with Judah said this morning, founder of CIG Africa, and it wouldn't have been more enlightening than what it has been this morning. Thank you so much for your time on Rise and Shine this morning. We absolutely appreciate your contribution for the youth of our country. We'll speak with you some more time, especially as the conversation around the youth confab builds. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, very.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Well, great conversation, especially listening to. There's something I was going to, say to Jude. We can invariably rate the Tinubu-led administration where the youth of the country is concerned a good pass mark, maybe better than average, because looking at some of the environment that they have initiated and some of the policies, maybe not just policies, but initiatives, trying to create an environment where the youth can thrive. I think we have a problem of awareness in terms of what these initiatives are for more youth to harness. But this is really good. And like we said, for those of you who follow us on social media, we will make available more information as to the three MTT and the AI opportunities that have been made available by the federal government on our social media handles. So you want to follow us on Instagram, you want to follow us on Facebook, you want to follow us on Twitter to get that particular information. Well, we're going to take a quick pause, and when we return, remember today is Tuesday International, and we'll be heading to Ghana to talk to our guests from there, looking at what's happening in Ghana just a couple of days since John Mahama came into power as president, and what is going to be expected of his administration. We'll take a quick pause. When we return, Rise and Shine continues. Stay with us.